Hey everyone, I'm your host. This is Marcus and
Karmea.
Karmea, and we are here with another dynamic interview. We have a very special lady coming to the show today. She is going to share her testimony, her story, and she actually wrote the book. She wrote the book, y'all, on this experience, and we're going to talk about it. That is huge, that is big, and you can't talk about it enough. You got to bring it up. Narcissists. So, I can't help bring this woman back into the show, so we're going to just roll with it. Here we go. Dana Diaz, spilling the tea on narcissists. This woman is a wife, mother, author, best-selling book. The current book that we're going to be talking about today, Gasping for Air. This is the book. This is the book that you must buy to find the strategies and hear her story firsthand, how she survived and made it through a narcissist experience. We all can relate. We've all bump shoulders, rub shoulders with a narcissist, one or two, hopefully not two. But this woman here is helping us get to a better place, a better mind. She is sharing and giving. You can find her on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and her website, Dana Diaz, and see how this woman's story compels you, because it definitely compelled me when I read about it, and it moves you. It moves you to do better. And I couldn't have thought of a better guest to come to the show today and help us do better in this way. So help me welcome to the stage the incredible Miss Dana Diaz.
Hello.
Welcome to the Gentleman Style Podcast show, ma'am. How are you?
I am well. Thank you for having me.
Love it. Gotta have you because we need this. We need the sauce, the info, the knowledge that you're sharing in this incredible book. But before we touch on the book, I want to ask, most people don't talk about their narcissistic experience. It's almost along the lines of, abuse, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's scary to talk about. What encouraged you? What motivated you to come out and share your story?
Well, a lot of things. I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. I was a victim of child abuse as well. And my whole childhood, I was told, don't tell, don't say anything. And when I tried to tell people what was going on, I paid consequences for it. So it taught me not to talk about it. And of course, in my previous marriage, which this book is about, 25 years, nobody knew what was going on. I never divulged anything. There were people that suspected I wasn't happy in my marriage, but nobody would even imagine that this man who was so charming and funny and charitable and generous and all this stuff would have ever done anything that actually happened. So you fear not being believed. You fear that people are going to think you're lying and that you're actually the narcissist trying to smear their name. And, so you just deal with it and you're quiet. And plus I had a son. We had a son together. And for my son's sake, he had even asked me during his childhood, please don't tell anybody. I don't want to be that kid whose dad, beats up mom, or whose dad is in jail, or whose dad gets in trouble. He didn't want that reputation. We live in a small town and everybody's talking, and it's like there was a song about that. We don't want to give him something to talk about, So we keep quiet. But I think it's a really important, unfortunately, now that I'm out and after, I know that my experience was not the, worst experience ever, or, the most traumatic experience ever. There are certainly worse situations, but somebody had to speak up about it, and I joke with my priest, who also said, why are you doing this? I said, Father, God gave me a big mouth, and I think that he gave me these experiences and these gifts so that I could help other people, so that they know they're not alone. They know they're not crazy. They are not the only one going through this, but I also want to show them that you can turn your life around. You can, 3 years ago, I was scrubbing toilets for work. I have a college degree in journalism and psychology, and I was scrubbing toilets. And here I am 3 years later with a best-selling book, speaking on podcasts all around the world. I've been asked to speak on a few panels and summits. Like, I would have never imagined anyone cared about one word I had to say because I never said anything. So I think it's just important for those who are still in situations where they are not safe to speak up for themselves. Somebody's got to do it for them. So I'm going to be that person.
I want to ask the signs. I want to ask the hard question.
Sure.
What stuck out to you about your ex-husband that initially attracted you to him? Because these are the signs that we need to look for, and they're not universal, but they're still significant in what attracted you to him, so we can kind of not just fall into the same thing. What were some of the signs that he exuded? You touched on some of them. Can you dig a little deeper with us?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I have a lot to say on that because the irony is that's actually the first chapter of my book is when I met him. I thought he was an arrogant jerk. I thought he was entitled to some servitude. And I'm like, oh, I know your personality and I'm not feeding into that. I am not playing this game with you. Been there, done that with, in my childhood with my abusive stepfather, who's also a narcissist, but not doing it again. So the thing about it is when people are in situations where they're possibly looking to date somebody or just checking the scene out, I think we try so hard, we excuse things, we enable things, we tolerate things because we want so much to like couple up with somebody or match up with somebody. But signs are, yeah, exactly what I just said. If somebody feels entitled, like especially out in public, if you're at a restaurant with them or anywhere and they start complaining about, oh, well, those people got their drink and nobody asked me if I wanted one, these kinds of things. Like they feel like they deserve special treatment. Everybody should tend to them, should psychically know that they need something, want something. If they're demanding, a lot of narcissists, and I don't want to, there's so many things, but a lot of them really have an obsession with money. There is a lot of financial abuse that happens in a narcissistic relationship, but narcissists love status symbols. They will be wearing the Rolex watch. They will be driving, the Land Rover. They will be, they need to show everybody like, look at me. I am better than you. I have more than you, and they want people to feel inferior to them, including you, even if you're with them.
Was he rich? Like, was he wealthy?
No. And that's why I say it's not about so much the money and the status, but no, he wasn't at all. I mean, we were young. I was 19, he was 21, but like he desired things that were well out of his league and he wanted to achieve them. And, I talk about this in the book, very early on, I felt like he thought of me more as a utility because I was college educated. He was not. And I think he saw that I was, moving towards having a good career that was going to make the kind of income he wasn't making. And it would help him to have that house and the car and the boat and and all the stuff that he wanted. And I found that, even in our marriage, all 25 years, it was all about what he could get out of me. What he, if we didn't have money for it, he would tell me straight out, well, you better go figure it out, mama. You better get to it. And what did I do? I did it.
It was very.
Oh, yes. Go ahead, Karmea.
Oh, my apologies. I understand what you were saying. Basically, with a narcissist and their behavior, they're focused on creating a narrative, and they're also wanting to push, even if they're not at that point. They're basically focused on building that narrative, and they want other people on the outside to see it. It's a big attention thing.
Yes.
But it's not. It's the attention they want. That's why when it comes time for them to be what's the word, the negative side to be shown, they just it all of a sudden is a problem, because that's not the way they want to be viewed.
Oh no, they work very hard to put on what, like this mask.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, well, we'll take two different sides of this. Like my stepfather, he's your typical narcissist. He is very much, in your face and very bold about what he has that you don't have and what he will have that you will never have and all these things. He's the best. He knows everything. My ex was more of the covert narcissist. So I always say he reminded me of Eeyore in the little kids' books, Winnie the Pooh books. Eeyore was kind of like, always sad and hung his head like, boo hoo, poor me, nothing good ever happens. That's a covert narcissist. So they're unsuspecting, they almost thrive on other people's pity. They think like if they complain enough about not having or they'll never have or whatever, that you're going to work really hard to make sure, oh, well, I want you to have it. I want you to be happy. So they kind of twist and manipulate things. I mean, they essentially, all narcissists are going to manipulate everything to their advantage, but they all put on that mask, like you said. So to the public, yes, they're all they have all this stuff and they can be annoying. Not all of them are abusive and not all of them are bad, but they can be very generous. They can be very charitable because they want people to perceive them very well. They can't take criticism. They can't take anyone knowing their flaws or their weaknesses. They can't even acknowledge them themselves because that's too much of an insult to their ego. So yeah, they have to have that portrayal of themselves out there. Plus they have to make sure, as you were saying, that this narrative is out there of themselves, of having this high esteem, because then if you, the victim, ever go out and say a bad word about them or even suggest that they're doing something that's, not a very good representation of how they want to be perceived, then they want to make sure nobody's going to believe you. And nobody does usually.
So with the two types that you were saying, can you repeat those again and give us your definition of them?
Yeah, the typical narcissist, I call it, they're called overt narcissists. They're the very in your face. Like they are not shy about making sure that you know what they have and what they're going to have and all that they are. They know they're important. They're going to make sure that you know they're superior to. Then the covert narcissist is more, it's covert because it's hidden narcissism. They hide behind this very humble, pitiful, poor me kind of an attitude, but it's the pity that kind of fills their ego with that need. They're very insecure, but they get this, it's this crazy, it's almost like they get this admiration and praise and all this stuff they want by using pity to get people to do the things they want them to do, to feel what they need to feel. It's really bizarre.
It's a victim mindset.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm still stuck on how he was able, because you were working. Did you work the entire time, right? Because that's a common, common thing I hear about is like, well, he took all the money, he took my cards, he took my resources, and that I can see how that can hinder someone to leave. But you were working. How did he lure that over you when you were working? You made your own money. Was there like joint accounts? Was it like
no, sir.
Like
the narcissistic ideology about money is what's mine is mine and what's yours is mine, and whatever you make is going to be mine too. It's all about them. It is all about them. So with my situation, it was
some
very
narcissistic
ironic.
women then.
Absolutely. And
very,
honestly,
very.
I have
it
had
is
a
not
lot of men,
gender specific.
No, it is not. And a lot of men are victims of this. Let me tell you, with the sexual and financial abuse, it is for real. So, but yeah, the job thing. No, don't be sorry. It's just, there's so much here. In my situation, I was going to DePaul University full-time getting my degree. Okay. I was working full-time while going to school full-time. And this guy had me working a part-time job as well. I was busy, but boy, he wanted this, he wanted that. When I got a new car, he had to drive it. I wasn't even driving my own vehicle because he liked rolling in my wheels instead of his, because his were crap. He just had to look good, and he was using me to look good. And then when I got out of college and I got that promotion and I was making money, he didn't like me making more money than him, but he sure liked the money. He wouldn't let me on his checking account, but he had to be, have my money accessible to him. They work these things, and it's not, you have to remember too, they're not just like coming in and saying, this is how it's going to be. They kind of, I call it insidious because it's little by little.
Yeah.
Little by little, they know how to work you. They're kind of kneading the dough. They know what you want to hear. Exactly. And they push your boundaries just a little bit, just enough so they're pushing your boundaries, but not enough to where it bothers you that you're going to stand up for yourself and assert yourself. So you let it go. And then the next time they push a little more and a little more and a little more. And the next thing you know, you're like, how did I get here? And it's too late. But this guy had me working. And then in the last 4.5 years of our marriage, I wish I was joking. He just decided, he said, I've worked for 17 years of my life. It's your turn to make the money and be the primary breadwinner. And I said, I've always worked. You've always worked. People work more than 17 years. Like that's life.
Normal.
We have a kid, we have a mortgage. You've bought all this stuff that we have to pay for. How am I supposed to do that by myself? And yet again, get to it, mama. Better get to it. That's what he said to me.
How does that? Oh my gosh. Wow.
But what do? I had a kid. A kid in a private school. I had a mortgage to pay so that my kid has a place to sleep at night. We had, what was I supposed to do? Demand that? I did, but you can't force a grown man.
Yeah, you can't make anyone to do that. You could say it all day, but when you're in certain situations, it feels like you're trapped, that someone has to do it or everything will fall.
And that's literally what it is. He just wasn't working anymore. He had a back surgery to relieve a herniated disc and decided that he couldn't work anymore, that was his ticket to lay on the couch for the next 4.5 years. And let me tell you, it made me angry as heck. I was terrified, but I'm the kind of girl that does what she has to do. I was doing it for my son, though, not for this bastard. And I did it for 4.5 years. But the blessing, because I like to look at the ways that things happen in your favor, was that at the end of that 4.5 years, I was done. I was over it. I was divorcing him. And guess what? I was the primary breadwinner. So that gave me financial independence, that I could keep my son in the house that he grew up in and pay the mortgage by myself, because I already had been. I was paying all the bills by myself because I already had been. And that guy had to go move on and either get a job or sleep on his mother's sofa, because I was done. And that was it. So it turned out well, because the reason they try to put you in situations like, oh, you had a baby, stay home, don't work anymore, I want you to be home with our kids. It's all bull. They want to make it so that you don't have the ability to make your own money. They don't want you to have that independence to walk out the door, because they know eventually they will push you. So that's the mistake my ex made. I made my own money. I was making money for the whole house. So when it was done, it was him that had to go.
So when so I want to caveat this.
Sure.
Because I want to work this in here, because I have seen where couples, right, they're not the norm, and they're not like, it's not the traditional where the husband is the breadwinner and the wife stays at home. But I have seen where couples are like, the wife works because the wife may have attained certain degrees. She may enjoy what she does. She may love her job, and she's like, babe, I really don't want to come home because I love what I do.
Oh, no, that wasn't me.
And okay, so you hated what you did.
I had a college degree in journalism and psychology. I thought I was going to be writing for newspapers or something, but this guy was not going to have anything like that happen. He moved me 90 miles southwest of the city to a rural area because he was only going to be happy if he lived in the country and had a little farm. So he had me scrubbing toilets in people's houses, and I'm not minimizing that work, but I didn't go to college so that I could be a
I
cleaning
know
lady.
that's right.
Do you know what I'm saying? So
Mhm.
he just had to subdue me and minimize me, hold me back, isolate me from everything and everybody to make sure that I guess to put me in he was trying to trap me, in this situation. Only he made a dumb move. And I mean, I would have gone anyway because I was stashing money. I wasn't stupid. I'm a cleaning lady making tips. And let me tell you, on the holidays, I got some good tips because I did some good work. And I was stashing those in a safe that nobody knew about for 15 years, planning to get out of this marriage. So I had some money
Yeah,
saved up.
and I know it sounds bad because I was just talking to Marcus about this yesterday, about
About
the
stashing
situation
money.
of women. Yeah, my mom taught me I don't care how great the situation is going. As a woman, you need to always make sure you have money in the background just in case
Yes.
someone decides to leave or something happens. You don't know if something may happen to your husband or your significant other. You don't know if what you guys got going on may not work out. You don't know if he decides that, you know what, I'm about to go. You need to make sure you
Mm-hmm.
have a nest egg just in case.
Absolutely. And I mean, I had been wanting out of the marriage, honestly, well, all the way back to when I got in it. And, especially with my kid, I was just waiting for a safe opportunity because, I'm talking tough and everything, but the reality is I couldn't talk tough in that situation
Mm.
because he was violent. There was a lot of angry outbursts. There were threats. It was a serious situation. So I
Ever
couldn't just
physical?
up and walk out.
Ever?
Physical threats, but he never made contact. And that was the thing. So I wasn't walking around with bruises or black eyes that I could show the cops. But if somebody swings a crowbar at your head, if I hadn't ducked, I would be dead. So to me, that's a physical threat. When somebody
Mhm.
is sitting on the couch every single night with a switchblade next to him, knowing that I'm terrified of knives, that thing was like a shock collar on a dog with an invisible fence. It sure kept me in line because I didn't know if and when he would use it. And he drank a lot. And when somebody's drunk, to the extent that he would get, I didn't know what he was capable of. He would make sure to carry his gun around in front of me sometimes, just walk by me with it just to keep me in my place. If he knew
Intimidation.
I was, yeah, he was trying to. So, was there physical? Did he beat me up? No. No, he didn't. But you know what he did do? He kept me in that volatile situation for 25 years to the point where my body had so much of the stress hormone cortisol running through it that you hear my scratchy voice. This is my lung disease. It's very rare, but it's common among victims of abuse. The neurologist says it's like having COPD and fibromyalgia all at the same time. And by the end of 2019, I had dropped to 93 skeletal pounds, couldn't breathe. My heart was barely beating. I could barely move. And my doctor said, your organs are shutting down. You are literally not going to live if you don't make a change to your life. So was there physical violence? No. But could he have killed me without his hands? Absolutely.
So what could you explain what was the last straw
The last
for
straw
for
was when I got sick. When I got sick,
okay.
because I mean, it's a very hard thing when you're, 44 years old. I was just 43 going on 44. And to be told that my body is shutting down, do you know how
Mm,
scary that was? And, I know we women like to be in shape and all that, but
mm.
93 pounds, I had dropped to that. I had all these symptoms. I was blacking out. I had an oxygen machine. I couldn't breathe. It was ridiculous, the things I was feeling. And for this, if just because of our life, our very hostile and volatile relationship that I was suffering physically, my life was not worth that. I kind of realized, my self-respect and self-love again. Like, okay, this man is not going to love me. He would actually appreciate if I dropped dead because then he could take my life insurance money walk around with my kid and say, boo-hoo, poor me, now I'm a single dad, I'm so sad, get everybody's pity, and it would work out really well for him. Well, I'm sorry, but no, sir, that was not happening on my watch. I had a son to live for. I had a whole life that I had envisioned that I mean, I certainly wasn't where I thought I would be. And that's when I just said, I am officially like, I'm done. I'm out. I'm going to go have a new life. And thank God I did. And it got more violent after the divorce even. But you know what? I am standing here. Unfortunately, some women don't get out like that. And some women don't survive the aftermath of the divorce. But I did. And I feel like it's really important to speak for those who don't.
I'm trying
so with
to
the divorce situation,
I don't know how a broke person has a gun. I don't understand that. If I'm on the couch,
you would be surprised.
Where do I get the money to get a gun? Because you're working for the 4 year. For 4 years, you were working. You were the breadwinner. So where you should.
Well, he had access. Yes, I did not have access to his money, but he had access to mine. He also had taken out, I found out after the fact, he had taken out some credit cards. The house he's living in even now, he bought, because when he moved out, and he had to go fend for himself. Next thing I know, I hear he bought a house. I'm like, how the hell does a guy without a job go buy a house? Well, I found out because we were married, filing jointly. He had copies of our tax returns for the last how many years. So it was my income, but he used it to buy a house. It's unbelievable what they can do. He also admitted to me, though, that he had stolen money, and I don't know from where or from who, but God help him. These people, if they want something, they're going to find a way to get it. They have no morals. They have absolutely no morals or boundaries.
And I'm very interested, because I know in some states it does take time to go through the divorce process. You have to be separated or so forth. How does that work with a person like this? Because Lord forgive me, I don't know.
No, it's okay.
If he would have been living too long. But hey,
that's true.
Because being in the same household, I'd be like, well, at this point, it sounds like to me that I'm literally insane, so I may be able to plead that he may not live through this process.
Right. So my situation was a little different. And this is, I've always said that I didn't like the person he turned me into, because I almost learned from him how to be just as manipulative back, to get my needs met and to get what I wanted. So at this point, here's the irony of everything. So I consult with an attorney to file for divorce. She says, okay, well, you live on a farm, you got cows, you got pigs. I mean, it's not just as easy as like you have a house in a subdivision, like go live somewhere else and we'll figure it out. We actually had like farm animals and assets we had to, make arrangements for before we could move on. So I figure I have this homework. I'm going to get on it. COVID, the pandemic hits. We are under a shelter-in-place mandate. Now I am stuck in my house with this man. And literally, I'm laughing now. And that's just a sign that I've healed, let me just say, because it's not funny at all. But I remember being on the phone with a friend of mine saying, I swear this is going to be like Survivor, like the show, like who's going to get out alive? Because, I mean, there really was, life and death matters here. But I took that time during COVID. I knew what I had to do. So I first of all, I did not have conversations with him. I wouldn't even talk to him on the phone. And yes, we were living in the same house, but I didn't interact with him if I didn't have to. I moved to my basement. He would contact me through text and email, and I would respond back. So that way I had everything in writing. So I'd be like, hey, since we're not working and we're stuck in the house, I was looking over this asset, or that, what do you think we should ever do if something were to happen? Just throw it every once in a while, just kind of, well, I'd say we'd have to sell the cows, or, maybe that life insurance policy, or, and then I found out he drained his 401k. So I didn't have to worry about that. He didn't have any of the money left. So, okay, pissed me off, but move on. So I was kind of taking care of all the things you'd have to decide in a divorce during that time without having to sit down and talk to him. And I did it in writing via email and text. So by the time the courts opened and they said, oh, it's going to be a while because we're backed up, I just at least had everything in place. Everything was agreed to. And so when I finally just said, I can't wait for these courts to get caught back up, like this is just not happening. Fortunately, this is one of the good things about small towns. I knew a prominent judge in the county, asked him, where can I go for a really, really fast divorce? Gave me a name and number. I called the guy. I said, how fast can you do this? He said 3 weeks. I said, sign me up. I had the retainer in his office an hour later. I gave him all the, details of everything that had been already worked out. He wrote it up, and literally the next day, he said, I have the papers. He said, we'll send, a court representative to serve them to your spouse. And I said, no, hold on. I don't want my kid to.
You in the house with, I don't want you to serve him while I'm here.
And plus my son's there and whatever. So I was like, can I present them? Like, you just need a signature, right? And he goes, yeah. So, nobody knew this man better than me. I've had to gauge his moods and his, every day for the last 25 years to, gauge whether there were threats or if things were okay or whatever. So I asked him if
dinner, rub his back.
He wasn't getting dinner. No, I wasn't rubbing anything. No, sir.
Slide
Not
the
at that
across
point.
The room.
Not at that point. Not at that point. No, I just told him that everything we had agreed to, that I had legally drawn up, and I presented it. It's all in the presentation. I said, just to protect your circumstances as well as mine. I had a lawyer draw up everything we agreed to. So if you want to go over it together, and then we can sign it and that way it's all in order. Nobody has to worry about the other one fighting or going back on anything. And of course he was agreeable to that.
He signed it?
He signed the papers, signed our son over to me without question. He had no child support, no alimony. He wasn't responsible for anything with our son's education, medical expenses, nothing. He was able to walk away with whatever the heck he wanted. Materially, the only thing I said was, my income's my income, my kid's my kid. I don't care. I can make more money. I can buy more things. I am done. But he didn't want the house. He didn't want anything. You know what he was worried about? His guns. He wanted to make sure that it was written that his guns were his. That's all. He didn't care about his kid. It was his guns. He wanted to make sure he had them. And I don't know if that was to threaten me anymore or intimidate me, but I didn't care. I had those papers signed. We went to the notary, and I drove as fast as I could to the lawyer's office with those papers. And 3 weeks later, no contest, appeared in front of a judge on a Zoom. And it was, the asset division was over, as I say. I shouldn't say it was over, because obviously, there was some domestic violence after that, which was very serious. But at least the marriage itself legally and our asset division was done with.
What are some advice you go ahead?
Because you said that there was some DMV afterwards.
Yeah. He showed up at my house one night very late. It was around 11 o'clock at night or so. It was just before midnight, pounding on the door. My son actually took action. Now, mind you, my son was 17, 18 at this point. Just as big as his dad, if not bigger. But he threw me in his bedroom because I was freaking out. I was scared, obviously. He threw me in his room and said he's going to go have a conversation with his father. And I heard every cuss word being thrown back and forth. I couldn't even make out what they were arguing about exactly. But when my son came back in, I mean, it's very rare for a teenage boy to have tears in his eyes, but he hid his face in his hands and he said, I would have never forgiven Dad if he would have stabbed you with that knife. So I didn't like that very much. And then 3 nights later, I thought everything was cool. Everything was fine. My son wanted to go out with his friends. It was a Saturday night. You know, they wanted to go to a football game at the school and he was going to sleep over at his friends. And this was the first time that he was even leaving me at the house alone. And I could tell he was a little nervous, but I said, no, you need to live your life. You need to just be 17 or 18, whatever age he was. I'm like, just go be a kid, have fun. Like, I'm good. Like, it's all good over here. And
did you want a gun?
No, I didn't. I did not. And 15 minutes after he left, and mind you, here you gotta love narcissists and their control. My ex had put some Ring doorbells. Now, mind you, again, we lived on a 4-acre farm. We had outbuildings, barns. He had put Ring doorbells. So he had seen my son leaving. And I say my son because I don't like to acknowledge that he's the father, but our son left. And 15 minutes later, I'm literally up in bed, like trying to fall asleep. And this man's outside my bedroom window, just hollering, calling me all kinds of names and making accusations and, you know, all this and that. So I pulled the covers over my head. And the next thing I know, I honestly don't remember getting from the bed to the corner of the room where there's no windows, calling 911 hysterically because he's outside shooting a gun. I heard 3 very distinct gunshots, and then everything just kind of went black after that. 6 squad cars showed up. But unfortunately, because of the area we lived in, again, rural area, we're under the jurisdiction of the county cops, which are 45 minutes away. So I was sure this man was going to come in this little house and just kill me at this point. Long and short of that, I have 6 squad cars at my house, a short time later. They do not arrest him. They do not charge him. He says he didn't do it. He had had enough time to get rid of the gun and whatever shells. Then again, we had the house, we have a 3,000 square foot barn, we have a cow paddock, we have a chicken coop, we have a pig, who knows where this stuff is. This is, midnight now. They're walking around with flashlights on 4 acres. They're not going to find anything.
Ask the cow. The cow saw everything.
Ask the cow. The cow might know. We're not aware.
Did you have access to the Ring cameras? Because they were still on the property.
Yeah.
You didn't.
Yeah, but that was those. They were his, so he only had them. And the cops said the only way they would arrest him is if I had video camera footage. And I remember being a little snarky with the cop and saying, "Well, if somebody was shooting out your bedroom window, why the hell would you think you would go up to your window and start taking video with your phone?" I was a little more worried about my damn life and I'm on the phone with 911.
Mm-hmm.
And he kept insisting, well, he said he didn't do it. So without video footage. And I said, so what did you do in 1950 or 1960 when domestic abuse situations were happening? People didn't have video cameras and smartphones or any of these, any technology to be able to, prove anything.
The unfortunate thing is a lot of those cases, because I used to study that type of stuff in psychology. A lot of those cases, things happen that should have never got there to those points. They will try to do investigations once things happen, once a woman's dead, when somebody's missing, right, when things should have been done prior.
That is the problem, because let me tell you what happened that night. And mind you, this is after the divorce. He had signed that house over to me. Only my name was on the title, the deed, and the mortgage of this house. And they said they were not taking him away. And I said, so you're going to leave me here with this man? And they said, well, we can't do anything else. And I said, well, then I'm not staying here. I'm out. How was I supposed to stay there after that? And they would not take him away.
So he was shooting. You
yes.
called 911. And the 6 squad cars pulled up, and he was still there. He never tried to escape. He never tried. So he stayed the entire time up until the police came. And
and he
didn't take him away.
No, and he was drunk, and they said they couldn't arrest him for being drunk. He didn't even have damn shoes on. Seriously. And they said, well, we
and he's
can't
on your
arrest him for being
property.
drunk. And he had no right to be there. Let me just tell you, I was so upset. And I went to the courthouse 2 days later, Monday morning, for an order of protection. And the judge said that she did not see that my life was in danger and I was denied an order of protection. And she said, if it had been that bad for so long, then why weren't there police reports? Well, excuse me, ma'am, but if you're a victim of abuse, you are not trying to tell the police or anybody else. I mean, I even had somebody tell me about their situation with the police, that their 15-year-old daughter was there, had a gun held to her head by the dad. And when the police came, the police directly asked the 15-year-old girl, did he do this? And he was right there. He was in handcuffs and all that. But this 15-year-old girl was terrified and said, no, he didn't. My mom's lying. Because this is the situation we're in. We can't say anything, because if we say something, we know they're going to spend the night in jail, maybe a week. Lucky if they get a month or a couple of years, but they're
they're
going to come
still
out
going to
and
send them
hunt
home.
you down. Exactly. And you're going to pay for having done that to them.
Where'd you go after you realized that they were not going to remove him from the property? Where did you go? Did you call your son and tell him, hey, I need you to come home?
No, I did not. I did not want, it was very important to me not to involve him, because this stuff was between me and his dad. I really, really just wanted him to live a normal life. And I just wanted him not to worry about me. Because I think if I would have called and told him that, he would have never left me alone at the house again. And I love him too much to do. No teenager needs that burden. That wasn't his fight, to fight. So no, I was dating a longtime friend of mine. So I went to his house. I had many people whose houses I could go to, but when you have a lunatic with a gun who's also drunk and wants you dead, you don't go to your friend's house that have kids. You don't go to the, seniors who love you like a granddaughter, because you're afraid they can't defend themselves or you if something happens. So I'm like thinking in my head, yeah, I'm going to the house of the guy who has guns too, because he'll protect me and be able to take this on. But it's awful. It's just awful, and it was just such a emotional and traumatic situation. But the hardest part was later that night. I mean, this was already the middle of the night, so this is probably the wee hours of the morning, 2 a.m. or so. I do get a phone call from my son. I mean, I'm still like, my nerves are, I can't sleep. I'm still trying to come down from everything that happened. My son called me and he growled at me on the phone. What did you do? What did you do? Because his dad had already called him and twisted the story around. I don't even know what he told our son, but I was the villain in this story and his dad was the victim. And none of that I said happened. And I'm like, wait a second, child. I am the victim. How about asking how I am after everything that I went through? How about understanding that I am still trying to process that this man could have come in and shot me and I could not be having this conversation with you? That'll rattle a person up pretty good. And you're worried about why I called the cops? Because my son had asked me for many years prior to this. He had always told me, don't involve the cops. He didn't want to be that kid, He didn't want to be that kid whose dad was in jail, whose dad was a loser, whose dad was a drunk. And I told him I wouldn't call the cops, but this was crossing the line to me. I couldn't do it.
Excuse me, son.
I know.
Sir.
But I'm sorry. I'm a mama hen. I'm going to defend my baby.
That was a close situation.
I'm going to defend
that was a very close
situation. Imagine being, though, the only child between a mother and a father. And my son came to me several times and said, you're telling, dad's telling me one thing, you're saying it was the whole other. Who am I supposed to believe? He did not want to have to take a side, nor should he, which is why I didn't call him. I didn't involve him. He didn't need to know. He didn't know I even went to the court for an order of protection. As a matter of fact, to be honest with you, I didn't even tell him the day I went to get the divorce from his dad. I told him a couple days later because he was so worried about this idea of divorce that, I was pressured. Well, my ex threatened that he would tell our son if I didn't. And so I told our son, and my son flipped out and said, well, why didn't you tell me you got divorced? Oh my gosh, the world is over. And I'm like, but 5 minutes ago you were just fine. And 5 minutes ago, your dad and I were divorced. It's been a few days. Like, it's all in your head. It's what
We're
you
still
make
here.
out of it. So I made my point, and I'm sorry it was harsh, but he didn't need to know the play-by-play. I didn't think. His dad did, because his dad wanted to use the play-by-play as opportunities to make me out to be the liar and the cheater and this awful, horrible villain, in this story of his, because he has to be the victim.
Two questions.
Sure.
How did you have any friends that knew about him or what you were going through? And then the second part to that question is, what can a friend do if I'm your friend, or I have a friend that I feel is being abused and they're with a narcissist? How can I help them behind the scenes without causing a commotion? How can I be of aid to someone, if at all possible? Maybe it's not possible to help someone.
No, that's going to be a tough question. So I'll answer your first question first. Again, this man isolated me. Very early on, we stopped going to my family for holidays and gatherings. It was just his family. Then when we moved so far away from everybody, we didn't even see his family as much. He didn't like me going out with friends. Even when I went to church on Sunday for that 1 hour every week, he would accuse me of loving God more than him, or I'm screwing the 80-year-old priest, and that's the only reason I'm going to mass. I mean, he just made things so difficult. And when you have a kid, especially, and even for your own sanity, you just finally succumb to it. You stop having friends. You stop going anywhere, because you just don't want to fight every time you walk out of that house. They want you trapped. They want to be in control of you. They want to dictate everything in your life. And what they want is servitude to them, and that's it. So did I have friends? I mean, I guess you'd call them friends, but nobody he didn't like me talking on the phone in the house. If I texted somebody, I was hiding from something from him and screwing them as well. He had even accused me of screwing a female friend. I mean, it was just exhausting, honestly. So were there people that knew? Yes, I had one particular friend that knew, but ironically, it's not ironic, actually. My saving grace, to go along with this domestic violence after the divorce, when I got another court date, because I appealed the denial for the order of protection, they said bring witnesses. So I contacted the gal who lived in the property next to us, because I had been friends with her, but she's very bold and very assertive, and she did not like my ex. So he didn't want me hanging out with her. So it was just easier to not. So I hadn't spoken to her for years, but I reached out and said, I don't know if you heard or saw anything. It's probably hard not to see that there were 6 cop cars with their sirens going at my house the other night. And long and short of it, she agreed to come to court with me. And she also agreed, which she did testify, that my ex had been over at her house telling them openly, her and some guests she had for a bonfire not long before that he was planning to kill me. So, did they know about it? Yeah. And it's hard, because even now that this book has been released, this book is about my previous relationship, but I do make references to the abuse I experienced as a child. And I had somebody reach out to me from my childhood that I hadn't heard from in over 30 years. And the first thing she said was, I'm so glad it's you, and I'm so glad you're alive, because I always thought I would see you and maybe even your mom in a ditch somewhere, killed, on the news. And I thought, people, if they're aware that something might happen, why aren't they doing anything? Well, they don't want to get involved. They're afraid themselves of these people. And, so that's probably my biggest struggle with all of this, because at what point do we say as human beings, like, if if somebody says, I'm going to kill my ex-wife or my wife, hello. I mean,
Yeah.
that should be taken seriously. If you think some man is going to kill his wife and his daughter, yes, open your mouth, speak up, get involved. I don't know what to do. As a friend, though, if I know, and I have people reach out to me all the time now, I tell them,
It's
number one,
very
I'm not going to be, no, it's okay. I don't want to be that person that's like, get out, because not everybody is safe to get out. Not everybody is financially able. I had communicated with somebody a year ago that had two, not one, but two autistic boys and their pets, and they were all being physically, I mean, like, beat. How is she going to, but God love her, the courage in this woman. She has more bravery than I could ever imagine. She took her two autistic boys and she packed them up in whatever they could in a backpack, and she lived on the streets. She was going in garbage cans to find food. One day she told me all they could find all day for the three of them to share was one piece of burnt toast somebody had thrown out. That woman has more courage than a million women that I know. So let me tell you, it's not always that easy to just say, I'm going to walk out. So I never would tell anybody to leave. I would just offer the support. Offer to them that if you ever want me to talk to a legal professional about your situation, I will do that. If you ever want to talk, I will do that. And you know what? There are some people that don't even want you to acknowledge it because victims of abuse hold a lot of shame. Sometimes all you can do is give them a hug. And let me tell you, if it's a real hug, not one of these superficial taps on the back with like your body, pointed outward away from them, if it's a real hug that they can feel, sometimes that's all they need for that moment. That's sometimes all you can give, because until a person actually decides for themselves that they can leave that situation and that they want to, there's nothing you can do, but definitely keep an eye out for them. And in my situation, I wish that somebody would have said, hey, make an anonymous call to the cops. This guy might be talking some smack, but you know what? He said he's going to plan to kill his
better
wife.
safe than sorry.
Exactly. I always say err on the side of caution. You can make anonymous calls because a lot of times, like I said, phones are monitored. There's GPSs on your car. Like, it is not always safe for you as a victim of abuse to be able to go and do these things on your own. But if you have somebody that's got your back, or at least, I was thankful at least that my neighbor had been keeping an eye on things. I of course, I wish somebody would have said something sooner, but thank God I did have, that support when I needed it. And when we went to court, I was granted an order of protection. He couldn't come within 10 feet of me, which
I need a mile on that thing.
Yeah, because I actually remember saying to the judge he could throw a 2x4 at me from 10 feet away. I was down to 93 pounds, for God's sake. I'm 5'3". I mean, you could blow me over with a breath. I mean, give me a break. So it's sad that our justice system doesn't always work in our favor. And it's sadder that too many times when we see things on the news, or you watch 48 Hours or any of these stories, a lot of times we're watching them. And even my husband will turn to me and say, boy, sounds like your ex, this guy sounds like a narcissist. Not all narcissists are abusive, but boy, the ones that are, you got to watch out.
Karmea, you got a question? Man.
I know.
No, I don't have a question. The only thing I thought about, I'm not a violent woman, but at the same time, when it comes to protecting myself and my blood, I look at that as, I'll shoot you and say you fell in the kitchen.
Yeah.
That's just my mindset. Everyone's not the same. And when you was talking about the friendship thing, because I've had friends in those type of situations, it's really tricky, because we're not just talking about their lifestyle and their financial, we're talking about mental, because a lot of them still come back even after coming out, because they're still toying with them. They're still toying with them mentally. They're talking to them. They're saying, well, you can't do that alone. You have our kid, or even if it's not kids involved, it could be the case of they still have those ties with them. So they're using that as, oh, well, we've been together so long, you just want to leave me. They're playing with them.
Well, there's another
aspect.
situation
of Yep. My friend told me,
Yeah, go ahead.
hmm?
I
Oh, I'm sorry.
please
No,
proceed.
I was just going to
Well,
say another
I was
aspect.
just talking about that, being a friend on the other side.
Right. But the problem with people in these
No, go ahead.
relationships, so a lot of why they stay, and people don't realize this, you think like, oh my gosh, she's a horrible person or she's a horrible person, just leave. But you have to remember, when we get into these relationships,
Oh, it's not
I mean,
easy.
there is nobody. I mean, yeah, I said I didn't like the guy. I thought he was an entitled jerk, but why did I end up with him? Because he could be so charming and loving. That guy that everybody else saw, I got that too. That was my reward for being a good girl when I followed all his rules and did and said everything he wanted, and he was happy with everything he had. So you have to remember, like, I'm not like married to like Chucky, who's running around with a knife and disheveled hair and a crazy colorful striped shirt. Like, I
Where it's
mean, this
obvious,
is
yeah.
right. These are not people who are walking around like that. There's those bad times, but then, after the bad times, it's I'm sorry, and he's caressing my cheek, and I love you. I hate that I hurt you. I'll never do it.
Hmm.
And they do,
As
and
he
then things could
polishes
be
his gun.
good. Right. But things will be good for a week. And the problem is it's this constant push and pull, this ebb and flow. So even though these bad things happen, they're capable of being good to you. And when it's good, it's great. It's great. It's what a relationship should be, right? So you think in your mind, they do this to make you think that it's you, that you must have done something wrong to provoke
Hmm.
them to treat you that way. So if you're thinking like that, why would you leave? Because you're just thinking, if I could be a better wife, if I could be a better girlfriend, if I could be a better husband or boyfriend or whatever it is, if I just didn't do this or say that or wear that or listen to that music or whatever it is, I'll never make pot roast with onions again because he doesn't like onions. Like, you just think about these, it sounds silly, but you look to every detail of your life thinking, what can
Hmm.
I do to make it better? Because when he's good, when I have done everything right, it's good. I mean, they actually did a psychological study. I just learned about this from actually marriage counselors that I was on a podcast with. I wasn't getting counseling. We were talking about marriage, but um, there was a study that was done where they conditioned dogs. They had them trapped and isolated in these cages. And they went through their study, but it was the same idea. They eventually opened the doors to free the dogs. The dogs were free to walk out of this situation they were in, which, they were not giving these dogs the best quality of life. The dogs didn't walk out. They did not leave the cages. They stayed in the cages, just like we stay in these relationships. So, yes, when we're out of them, they, in narcissist terminology, we call it luring. They will lure you back. And you know why? Because they know you already. They know how to make you do the things that they want you to do.
Hmm.
It's harder for them to have to make the effort to charm somebody else and trap them and learn them. They already know you. That's easy peasy. They know you like the back of their hand. So they get bored with, the effort of trying to find somebody else. And then it's like, hey, baby, the day before I got remarried, you're the only one for me. I will never be happy without you. I'm so glad you found love, but what will happen to me? Because you are always going to be it. If I was always it and I was the one and this was this undying love, then why the hell did he treat me that way? Because treating me good,
Hmm.
then treating me bad, then treating me good and treating me bad makes it a choice. And if you're choosing to treat me bad, just like you choose to treat me good, you don't do that to people who you love. That is not a healthy relationship cycle. It's awful. It's disgusting.
It's terrible. I feel
Hmm.
like I would
Yes.
want to open my home to someone like that. A woman with two autistic kids. I think I'm struggling because I think about what you said. Because the potential is if I bring you into my home, he may follow.
Right.
So
Right.
I'm conflicted with that. I really am. I
And that's the
really am.
thing. But you know what people have to remember, and it's something I had to tell myself too. I mean, granted, I put myself you know, and I had things work out very well for me. But for people that are in those circumstances, and some of them do reach out to me, I tell them this: there are too many good people in this world. And I'm speaking as a Christian, but even if you're an atheist,
Mm-hmm.
it does, you know, there are good people in this world who are not going to allow you to live on the streets with your children. You will have food, you will have shelter, you will have clothing, you will have support, you will have services available to you to get you back on your feet and take care of you all, because there are shelters for this. There are professionals who are, you know, educated and have experience in helping these victims restart their lives over. So it's just about people like us getting them to those resources. But the most important thing for anybody in a situation is to make sure, no matter what you do, if you are going to leave, make sure you are safe. And if you got to wait it out,
Yes.
sometimes you have to wait it out. That's why I will never, ever, ever just be like, get out of there, because sometimes getting out of there will get you killed.
You just
Mm-hmm.
educated me, because that's my first reaction, is to tell you to leave, right? Get out of
Right.
there. And so you just educated me. I want to jump to the healing process, right? Because
Yes.
you're remarried now. If I
Yes.
and I think going through what you going through is incredible, and I would be
Thank you.
terrified to remarry. I would be so fed up. I'm like, don't text me, don't call me, get
Right?
out my DMs. How did you find the strength to remarry again after going through that?
Again, I was just very fortunate. I think that just, you know, the universe just shines some ease on my life after everything I'd done. Because yes, I honestly, my son was, after high school, was going to Wyoming for school, and I even told him, I told my grandma, I'm like, I found a place in North Carolina. It's right by the Smoky Mountains. I'm gonna go live right between that Indian reservation and the naval base. It just made me feel real good. And I love the nature and the water and the mountains. And I'm going to get a Great Dane, because I always wanted a Great Dane. Like, I'm just going to go be a writer and do my thing. You know, nothing against marriage, nothing against relationships, but I need a little,
You
I
needed
need a
a
minute.
break. You
I
wanted a
need a
break.
minute. I need a minute, right? But again, it's this small town stuff. That friend who I went to his house, that, you know, that I was dating, you know, the night of the shooting. Well, that shooting kind of scared him. He knew of my intention to go to North Carolina. He knew I just wanted to get out of here, fresh start, and do my thing. But he actually proposed 5 days after the shooting, and I just stared at him, because I'm like, I don't need to be married again. Not right now. You don't need to be married again. Like, we could just be like friends, and, you know, like, let's just, you know.
Mhm.
But
He,
he's so sweet. And here's the thing. Again, the small town stuff. I
But
knew his family for 16 years. It's not like I just picked him up at a bar. I knew this man. You know what I mean?
so
I knew him actually longer
it
than I knew my ex before marrying him, in my defense.
it almost sounded like he was waiting on you, and then when you got married to the first person, he was like, "Oh crap, okay, well, I'll be
Well,
here,"
we
you
didn't
know.
know each other then, but yeah, he did admit that well, again, this small town stuff, he'd seen me. You know, I was friends with his sister-in-law, so he was here, and, you know, sometimes I'd be brave enough to share little tidbits of what was going on at home. Obviously, it wasn't fun stuff. So he knew stuff was going on, and, you know, he was
Mhm.
concerned. And I mean, it's that, you know, we're all human, whether we're married or not married. I mean, you're going to get along with people and not with others. You're going to click with people and not with others. But certainly I was like, I mean, even when
Mhm.
with the dating, I was like, no, sir, I'm good. I'm good. And he respected that. He was just persistent about it. And I was finally like, Lord, okay, fine, like, you know, let's just hang out a few times. But again, I think it's weird in our situation. It was kind of a blessing, because we didn't need the get to know you stuff. I didn't need to meet the family. I already hung out with his dad all the time. He's like the funniest
Mhm.
90-year-old man I know, very, you know, wise advice, and that I would get from him on my other marriage. It was weird a little bit, I guess, but the small town stuff, everybody's so intertwined. So it was very easy. It just naturally fit. So it wasn't a typical situation, but it was so easy that I finally was like, okay, you know what? Why not? Why not? But I said, here's the thing, like, this is what I want in life. We got to make sure that's what you want in life, because at our age, I don't have time to mess around, and I'm not trying to get married again. And we're not 20 years old, like, we got things to do and less time to do it. And God love him. It's been amazing. And I do, definitely want people to be more open and not shut off and not close themselves off by choice, to love after a situation like that. Because I will say that, again, we knew each other, so it's a little different, but having my husband holding my hand through the healing process has actually been really helpful, because it's a nasty thing to go through healing. Writing my book was, and getting it ready for actual publishing was really what did the healing for me. It was better than any therapy. And I know there's writing therapy out there, that I have participated in somewhat. But it's a nasty thing, because you're going back to those places. You are diving deep to see it, hear it, smell it, feel it. And when I do my writing, I get psychosomatic responses to where those emotions that I'm feeling again affect my body. And again, my lung, disease was triggered by the stress. So I'm feeling the stress again, going back to those places to be able to write the stories out. And then it's causing my body havoc. I get migraines, I get all these things that happen, but he's been so patient, and he understands how important my mission is, and how important, it is to be sharing with people that, just to know that they're not alone, and to know that I've been there, and whether they have it worse or not so bad, we're all in this together, but that there is definitely another side. I mean, like I said, 3 years ago, I'm still scrubbing toilets, and just barely out of this situation with my ex. It hasn't even been 3 solid years since the shooting and everything that happened. And here I am 3 years later, much healthier, put on weight. I haven't used my oxygen machine in a while. My voice is scratchy, but yeah, I'm doing well, healthy. And I am in a loving relationship where my husband and I cannot agree on something, but we're still smiling and we still love each other. And I'm like, is that how this works? Because I never had this happen before. It's not normal.
Does he
Yeah,
work?
he does. He does
Okay.
work. He has a job. I wasn't getting it with anybody that didn't have their crap together, let me tell you. But that's the thing, though. And he doesn't expect me to. He loves, from writing my books. And I'm in the process of publishing 2 more books at the same time, which is overwhelming. But I thank him every day that he is supporting me in this. And he says, well, you're saving the world. Somebody's got to, go do the hard labor or whatever, jokingly, but he does it happily. But that's what a marriage is. That's what a healthy relationship is the give and take. And I wanted to travel because my ex didn't even let me go to Florida when my great grandma died, not to her wake and funeral. He kept me in that house. I couldn't go anywhere. My husband, we took 9 trips last year all around the world. This year, we've only been on 4 or 5, but we're going on another one next week. Every time we get back, he says, where do you want to go next? And we plan it, whether we have the money or not. This man just wants me to be happy. And I, of course, want him to be happy too. But again, like, oh, this is what a relationship is supposed to look like. I had no idea, but boy, is it amazing. And I hope that people will see, maybe it won't happen as easily or as quickly for, everyone else, but there is another side. It doesn't have, I thought I was going to just die washing somebody's floors 3 years ago, but here I am, like, I saw a different life for myself, and now I'm living it. And how amazing is that?
That's incredible. How can, man, I'm stunned, I'm shocked, I'm all of the above. Thank you for taking me and taking us through that. How can people connect with you? How can we learn more and get a copy of this book? Because it's
absolutely,
it's incredible.
Yeah, and I've been told that it's a page turner by everybody. So even if you're just looking for like a toxic relationship, quick read on an airplane, it's definitely a good one, I guess. It's available anywhere books are sold online. Most people go to Amazon, but you can go to my website, danasdiaz.com. Link for the book is there. You can buy it there. There's also links to my Facebook and Instagram. You can contact me by email, but I definitely love to hear from readers of the book or just anyone that's heard me anywhere. If you have a relationship issue or story, I am not a doctor, I'm not a lawyer, but I am here to vent to. And, even if all I can do is tell you to consult an attorney, I am a safe place for people to come and share and support. So reach out, please.
Love it, love it, love it. That's Dana.
Yes.
DanaSDiaz.com, y'all. Wow. Wow. Thank you, Ms. Diaz. You've impacted me. You've educated me. Thank you for what you do.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I want to say this to you publicly. Never give
so
up.
much.
Don't ever give up. We need you.
Thank you.
Wow. There you have it, y'all. Narcissists. Avoid them. Dodge them. Kill them if you can. No, I'm just kidding. Don't but, man, Dana.
Shoot him and say he fell in the kitchen.
Oh, my gosh. Thank you all for tuning in to this Powerhouse Speaker. Connect. And I want to put myself out there, too. If you need someone to talk to, like, to connect, to really kind of just someone to vent to so I can get you to the right sources, I'm here to help. I'm here to help. We're all here to help. We're all here for you, my audience.
Yes, we are. Same here.
Miss Wells, you got anything for us?
This was a powerful message today. I'm so happy to talk to you, Miss Diaz. You've been through a lot and you came out on the other end with a silver lining. And I'm well aware that everyone don't have that ending, but it's not impossible. And I'm happy to hear that you're able to come out on the other end and tell people, wait. It doesn't have to end that way.
Exactly. There is more to life for sure.
Yes.
Facts. Love you guys. Thank you for tuning in to watching this episode. I hope it helps. It helped me for sure. It helped us for sure. Like I end every show, we gotta let Miss Diaz go. She gotta continue to change the world. Like I end every show, take care of your friends, take care of your family, and always take care of business. This is Marcus and
Karmea
and Miss Dana Diaz signing off. We love you guys. Take care.
Bye.